After that, I'll go right back to your phone calls. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former head of policy, Department of Treasury, father of Reaganomics, frequent guest because his analysis has been so accurate and spot on, and now close to a decade we've been having him on. He wrote a few weeks ago that the diplomatic implosion of the new lie to escalate the ongoing proxy war in Syria signified the beginning of the collapse of the U.S. empire like the Soviet Union. And that's something that I've been saying as well, just because you can see it there, clear as the nose on your face. Conrad Black wrote a piece that pretty much followed what Roberts said a few weeks before. Collapse of American influence recalls disintegration of Soviet Union, fall of France. Only 9/11, which they intend to be the murderous blow on our republic, to transfer us into a militarized imperial system, only that has propped it up this long, and I believe a new one will fail. People really know now about false flag. There's a mass awakening happening. That's my view. I agree with Roberts that there's a collapse in confidence in the system, but I don't know his view on how big the awakening is or if he disagrees. We'll find out right now, and we, of course, carry his news articles up on Infowars.com. You can go to his site, paulcraigroberts.org. Excellent site with all of his analysis, and you can find his books there. Dr. Roberts, you heard my intro there. Where are we historically? My gut tells me the stars are aligning, but within this paradox, within this corridor, within this crossroads, the enemy could also really pull some stuff as well.
Well, they won't give up. I'm pretty sure of that. You know, what's so strange, Alex, is the world now is looking to Russia for leadership. It's a real switch from the latter half of the 20th century. So I think that the United States has done itself in with its lies. It should not have tried to pull off in Syria the same level of lies that it used for Iraq or Libya. So I think the world is caught on, and it's left the United States in a very isolated position. It has to be embarrassing to be a superpower and have your main puppet state, the United Kingdom, vote down your war plans. I think that there is still some risk. You see, Putin simply outsmarted the White House moron. And when the Russians announced that the Syrians would give up their nuclear weapons and put them under international control, the White House didn't know what to do. They had the rug pulled out from under them. So they sent out their French puppet to tell the Russians that France would draw up the agreement and would stick in there the option of military action against Syria. Well, the Russians know what that means, and so they, of course, won't stand for that, because once they get any kind of agreement that has a military option, they'll claim it has to be utilized. So I think for now, the United States is very much on the defensive. It hasn't any diplomacy. It's abandoned even by most of its puppets. The curious thing is France. You know, I can remember when the French were very proud and independent. Charles de Gaulle would not let France be in NATO. He said he didn't want to be part of some American operation, that France was a sovereign country. And now it seems that they're very willing to be Washington's whore. But other than that, there's really no support for Washington.
It is insane. You said on my broadcast about 5 years ago that the U.S. had lost its soft power. And before, there were really not a lot of good countries out there. So even though America wasn't perfect, the world looked at us as the good guys. We're now seen as the bad guys. And now they're calling, on Drudge Report, Putin leader of the free world. I mean, that's got to really shake up the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh, yes. I think it has. They overreached. They let the hubris run away with them. You see, I think what happened, they got away with 9/11. And they figured if people were stupid enough to fall for their asinine explanation of 9/11, that they could tell people anything. And so they began doing that, just telling them anything. And they got carried away with it. Well, enough time passed and enough people such as yourself made efforts, and people began catching on, and they began seeing the pattern.
Absolutely. Stay there, Dr. Roberts. We're going to come back and look at 9/11 12 years later. We'll look into your crystal ball and tell us what you see coming in the future.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Cal-Ben Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soap that is triple concentrated and made from the highest quality vegetable and coconut oils. See them on the web, www.5starsoap.com, or call 1-800-340-7091 for a free catalog and buy American-made products. Order the sampler, a 1 to 2 month supply, or get a 1 to 2 year supply of soaps for all your cleaning needs. You're getting soap products twice as good as what you're using now. This is an amazing deal, and you will love the way real soap makes your skin feel. Call 1-800-340-7091 or visit www.5starsoap.com. Alex and his staff have used these earth-friendly, pure soaps for years. See them on the web, www.5starsoap.com, or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog.
Protecting your home with a security system is a must. But when it comes to protecting your family, your home, and belongings, there's no need to sign a long-term contract. Listen, there is some real scum in the alarm business, cashing in by locking you into long, punishing contracts. Not with Simply Safe Home Security. They're the good guys. You can trust Simply Safe to protect your family. Simply Safe was created by a Harvard Business School engineer, and it's revolutionary. You'll get 24-hour protection for just $14.99 a month. There are no hidden fees and no contracts. You'll save thousands. Plus, you're protected by their 100% money-back guarantee. Protect yourself against home invasions and break-ins. Order your Simply Safe system now and receive a wireless keychain remote, a $25 gift, free. So don't waste your time dealing with scum. Visit GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com. GetSimplySafe.com.
Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products, and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip.
We are on the march. The empire is on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Folks, don't feel bad that the American empire is in trouble. It's not really an American empire. It's a Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, military-industrial complex system that is totally divorced from reality, that for hundreds of years has been financing both sides of European wars and is absolutely predatory. We're going to be talking to Dr. Paul Craig Roberts about that and what he sees, what the different options are, what the best case scenario is versus worst case, and then he's going to leave us in about 12 minutes or so, and then we'll go directly back to your phone calls. It is the sponsors of this broadcast that make the show possible, and we bring you the best sponsors. InfidelBodyArmor.com is the most affordable, hardcore, non-ceramic, level 3 body armor in all major sizes. They've got backpacks, so much gear. It's really an amazing site with amazing videos. They've got magazines, you name it. It's just an awesome, awesome company. People are really loving it. InfidelBodyArmor.com or 888-608-6605. Regular stuff only stops 6 rounds. What about the 7th? Find out what stops hundreds. InfidelBodyArmor.com. And speaking of guns and self-defense, GunLawsLive.com. Without a very clear understanding of what your rights are in a deadly force situation, you are at risk of doing the right thing at the wrong time. And you can go to GunLawsLive.com and find out the proper ways to protect yourself. Gun Laws Live, Deadly Force webinar presented by one of the top experts, gun authors, and nationally recognized gun law attorney. Can get you inside information. This is invaluable info in this deteriorating, degenerating society. Find out more, find out the facts, find out the precedent, find out the law, not the disinfo. GunLawsLive.com, one-time deal, GunLawsLive.com. Check it out and find the other materials there at GunLawsLive.com. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are supported by you, not by government like NPR and MSNBC. Oh, yeah, MSNBC gets government money. Look it up. Just type in MSNBC gets government money. You'll find out all about it. A lot of money, billions a year. We're funded by the sponsors and by you. Going to Infowars.com. I went to the Iron Maiden Megadeth concert last night, and I'm not going to exaggerate. I probably saw 50 Infowars T-shirts at it. Very exciting. Very exciting. Great way. And I found groups of people that were wearing the T-shirts that were hanging out together, because it was an open, not assigned seating, who were getting together by meeting each other wearing the T-shirts. So it's a great way to meet other Paul Reveres in your area and to support our broadcast. Infowarsstore.com. It's all there, Infowarsstore.com, or by calling 888-253-3139. And again, thank you all for your support. Now, speaking of great resources to understand what's happening, a great place to start is paulcraigroberts.org. And if you just tuned in, he's the former head of policy at the Treasury, the father of Reaganomics. He was involved in diplomacy and has won international awards in diplomacy for working to phase in the transition of the fall of the Soviet Union. So he's uniquely placed to be able to break this down for us. And he's a part of a lot of the most prominent Washington think tanks as well. And he's been warning of the real direction America's going because of losing soft power and becoming completely immoral in the governing level. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try to give you the floor, sir. I'd like you to break down the question I prefaced. Looking out, what concerns you? What do you see as positive? What do you expect the establishment, the craven establishment, to do, full of hubris? And other key points that you think people should be made aware of out there?
Well, Alex, this question of yours would be much easier to answer when we see if the Obama regime and Israelis and the Israel lobby can maneuver somehow around the agreement that the Russians have brought forth, that the Syrians are simply dispossess themselves of all chemical weapons. Now, if the Obama regime can't get around that, it really means the end of the neoconservative project for a new American century, in which they laid out all the countries they were going to overthrow. Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria.
Another 100-year Reich that would never die, that died in just a decade. Yeah.
Right, but if it stops and they can't get Syria, then that whole program has been defeated, and I don't think they want to give it up. It's a very important thing to the neoconservatives, to the military security complex, to Wall Street, to the Israeli government, and these are powerful forces, and they will do whatever they can to get around the fact that Russia and Syria have removed the manufactured excuse by the Obama regime for continuing on this policy of conquest. So I don't think we can't answer it until we see what happens. What does the Obama regime do now? And once we see that, if, for example, they go and pull off some other false flag event and blame Syria and claim self-defense, for example, it'd be very easy for the Israelis to have the so-called Syrian rebels to launch chemical weapons onto Israel. And then Israel can claim self-defense and doesn't need a UN resolution or any kind of cover.
Exactly. That's what I've been predicting. But the problem, and now the Russians say they have intel, but now no one buys it. And a lot of the Israelis that call into the show, they don't want to side with al-Qaeda. I think it's the fact that the West is backing al-Qaeda has shown the emperor has no clothes. But Israel or the elements running it, how do they think they're going to get away with putting al-Qaeda in charge of Syria?
Well, it suits the purpose because it destroys, first of all, no one will be in charge. It'll be like Iraq today. The government doesn't really have control, or like Libya.
It's an immoral destabilization program.
It destabilizes, it turns the people against each other, and there's no organized government. And, of course, the main purpose of this is to further radicalize the Muslims so that it spreads into the Russian and Chinese populations. You know, both countries have Muslim populations.
That's the key, and you crystallize it. On record, the secret of the clash of civilizations is they are using radical Islam like a new form of globalist, New World Order, Anglo-American colonization of worldwide destabilization while using the Muslim threat to take our rights at home as well. What a masterstroke.
Well, you summed it up. That's exactly what the policy is. But, you see, if it's stopped now in Syria, I don't know what they'll do. Of course, they have a lot of hubris. I mean, you had to have a lot of hubris to stage this obviously transparent lie that Assad had used chemical weapons. First of all, suppose he did. It's none of our business. He didn't use them against us. He's not attacked anyone. He's defending the country from outside invaders. And so the fact that he's used chemical weapons or didn't use chemical weapons, it doesn't give the United States an excuse.
But clearly he didn't. I mean, and then Kerry said...
I know he didn't. Of course he didn't. But I'm just saying, even if he did, it doesn't make a difference. It's still not an excuse. There's nothing in international law that says the United States can attack a country that uses chemical weapons against an enemy who attacks it.
Well, that's what's so amazing is Obama says we're not going to have boots on the ground. They've started the war, as you said. It's outrageous.
Yeah. Well, the United States uses chemical weapons continuously. I mean, what do you think white phosphorus is?
Or DU.
Uranium. And look what the United States did to the people in Vietnam with Agent Orange. You know, there's over 150,000 kids born with facial deformities from Agent Orange. I mean, the United States is the biggest and worst user of chemical weapons. In fact, the United States has used more chemical weapons against more people than every other country in the world combined. So obviously, when they stand on this high horse, so it's just fabricated. It's an orchestrated excuse. So they want to attack it. So now the excuse they fabricated, the Russians have taken it away from them. They'll try to get another excuse. And it's true, people see through them now. But when you're full of hubris, you make mistakes. And so the United States government is completely capable of making an even bigger fool of itself. And then what you have to worry about when they realize that the whole world sees through them, that they're despised, that they pull out the nukes. You can't trust people. The kind of people that are in the United States government really can't be trusted with BB guns, much less with nuclear weapons. Why don't we have the United States turn over its chemical weapons? The whole world would be a lot safer. Let Syria keep theirs, but get them away from the Americans. That's what's dangerous, especially the nuclear weapons. If the world wants to be safe, they've got to get the weapons of mass destruction away from the United States.
Because we're occupied. How do we get the word out that this isn't really even the U.S. government and that it's these kleptocratic, financial interests that love to use destabilization?
Well, it looks to me like we're headed into a depression. I mean, we've never had a recovery. There's nothing to drive the economy. I would expect that a year from now we'll be in a depression, and this may help people see that they don't really have a government, that no one represents them, that everything is keyed toward a handful of powerful private interest groups. I think just as things unfold and develop, people catch on. That's about the only way. I mean, you can sit down and try to tell them, and you run into a lot of resistance.
You know, I run into a lot less, though, Dr. Roberts. I mean, I really see positive things happening out there on the street. And, you know, what hurts my feelings is, just for humanity, how they use the balkanization. I'm not anti-Israel. You've never been anti-Israel. You get called anti-Israel because you point out it's immoral for the people running the Israeli government to be putting al-Qaeda into a country and to be caught arming them, just like Turkey's doing and the French, everybody else. We're not anti-France when we say it's wrong the French government's doing it. We're not anti-America when we say Obama's wrong. It's like this hands-off, don't criticize Israel. I think that's backfiring, and it's really making it sexy to criticize Israel in outlandish ways instead of really criticizing Israel for what's wrong.
Well, I think the Israel lobby overused the anti-Semitic slur because now anyone who criticizes any aspect of Israeli policy is said to be anti-Semitic. So now they have to apply it to a whole range of very prominent intellectual Jews. So almost the entirety of the Jewish intelligentsia now are said to be anti-Semitic or self-hating Jews. So it doesn't work for them anymore. What it originally meant, anti-Semitic, meant somebody who hates the Jewish people. But what it means now is that anybody that makes even a mild criticism of any policy that the Israeli government follows.
Well, I see this also backfiring, like Ed Asner came out and said, Hollywood, I've been told this, but people are afraid to criticize Obama because they'll be called racist. And so now any criticism of Obamacare, it's all racist. And so I think that's been overused as well. And there's a real backlash happening.
That's right. You're right. But what it also shows is when they have to take refuge in racist or anti-Semitic, it means that their policies cannot stand examination. And so they prevent anybody looking at the policies by throwing up this barrage of name-calling. So it really shows how weak the position, the intellectual or the integrity position is of the two countries when they pull this type of thing. Oh, you criticize America, you must not like black people. Oh, you criticize Israel, you must hate Jews. This shows that their policies cannot stand examination. So I think it's a further sign of their weakness.
What does your gut tell you how this is going to end? Because I see even mainstream media saying Obama's buying his own propaganda, the government looks like a joke, we're imploding. I see the power structure itself beginning to realize that they've way overplayed and that any confidence they had left is draining away very quickly. I mean, I've got my ear to the ground, and let me tell you, I mean, this is collapse level. And just like the Soviet Union probably really collapsed in the mid-'80s, it didn't happen until 1991 officially. I think that they may still start World War III and I guess win that way by blowing the earth up. But my gut and intellectually, historically tells me I think they've already collapsed or they're in the process of collapsing right now.
Well, I agree with you. I think they've been exposed and the world no longer has any confidence in anything that the United States government says or the Israeli government. And they're exposed and that they are collapsing now. It doesn't mean they won't convince themselves there's some way out of it, or they have a way to recoup, or they won't do something stupid. That's still entirely a possibility. And I think we should talk about this again in a week or two or whenever, when we see what is the outcome. You know, Kerry is very upset that the Russians outsmarted him. And so is the Israeli government. And so they're mad, they're angry, because they had it all set for an attack. And now they they can't. So let's see how, if they're defeated or if they pull something else. And if they're defeated, then I think we see a lot more hope. And really what people should do, they should use this defeat to start removing these people from public office.
Well, that's the move to impeachment. We got Walter Jones coming on. He called us today. I think tomorrow. He's been very busy. But, I mean, we've got to really take the moral high ground here and keep pushing. And also explain, a fall of the American empire is good for America. We pay for it. We don't get any of the spoils now. Israel not being used for this global hegemonic technocracy that wants to destabilize everything not controlled by the hedge funds so they can suck these countries dry. I think Israel not trying to expand is in the end going to be good for Israel, because I think if they just keep pushing into Armageddon, that's what we're going to get.
That's exactly. You're right. I agree with that. I think that's a correct prognosis, and we'll have to just see what they do about Russia and the Syrian solution. If they accept it, then I think we've had a major change, all for the better.
But they'll continue to inject more al-Qaeda in. I think we should point out that our government's funding al-Qaeda in Jordan and sending them in. We should hammer that and call for that to be stopped. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, let's get a weekly update, or as soon as things change, we'll have you back on. Thank you for the time.
I enjoyed talking to you, Alex.
Enjoyed talking to you. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the father of Reaganomics, leaving us. All right.